Oh, we're recording?
Yes, we are.
That's a stupid
Haroro.
question. Okay, very special episode. The series is called the Socratic Diuretic Music Edition.
Yes.
I have today one of the best guitar players that I personally know. I might be biased because he plays with me in Cynation, Mr.
Yes.
Simon Lai.
Hi, everyone. Yes, you are biased because I grew up with you.
Oh no, no. When we were growing up, I didn't think you were very good at all. So
Yeah, that's true too.
it's not biased. Like he's actually changed my mind about his playing over the years.
Yeah.
Okay, so this part of the series, I want to talk with you specifically about guitarists because we do this all the time when we were kids, right?
Yep.
You argue, we used to say like who's the best player and all that kind of shit.
Yep.
So the guy that I want to talk about, and there's a reason I'll get to it, why he is the first guitarist that we're going to talk about at the start of this series is the guitarist from the band Animals as Leaders and a lot of his solo work,
Mm-hmm.
Tosin Abasi.
Mm. Wow.
Interesting,
Okay.
huh?
Mm-hmm.
I think some people are going to get angry with me, probably say that I'm incorrect, but I think you could say he's one of the founding people for Gen.
Yes and no. The
Well,
founders of Gent to me
hmm, periphery.
would be periphery people like Misha and yeah that group
Okay.
of people. Jake,
I don't know what
which
you call
is
Jake
which
Bowen.
is
Yeah.
the nephew of Mr. Pucci himself.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I
they
did
are
not know
related.
that.
John Petrucci is Jack Bowen's uncle, if I'm not wrong.
Oh, shit. Okay, that's interesting. Learn
Yeah,
something new every
and
day.
what's this? What's the other guitarist name? Suddenly it's just slipped my mind.
Okay,
He's
third one.
yeah. He's the endorsee of PRS. Shoot, I forgot his name.
I think I know who you're talking about. But anyway, we're not here to talk about periphery.
Yeah.
We're
Okay.
here to talk about Tosin. The reason why I picked Tosin instead of Misha or Jake Bowen
Mm.
is because I want to talk more about guitarists who have that guitar hero sort of, instrumental driven sort of thing. If you know what I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
in the vein of your Vi, Satriani, Gilbert, guys like that.
Mm.
And obviously, if I picked Gilbert or Satriani or Vi, we'd have so much to say about them because these are guys that we grew up with.
Mm.
Whereas I think Tosin's closer to our age, so we never grew up listening to him.
Mm.
I find it interesting because he's at that age where he knows these guys that we know,
Mm.
but he's also coming in with this new generation of players
Mm.
who have a lot of things that previous generation didn't have. And I'm looking at how has this influenced his style and his writing.
Mm-hmm.
Like one thing about Tosin, I knew about him because he plays a nine-string guitar.
Okay.
Most of the time nowadays he plays an eight, but he has played a nine before.
Mm. He has his own guitar company.
Yes, a Abasi.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we call him a Abasi Concepts or something.
Something like that.
What do you think of a nine string? Is that too much?
I think it's really down to the style of music.
You
Cause
can say whatever you want. Tosin's probably never gonna see this.
no, cause like the stuff that he does is pretty much prog, right? I mean, you can they call it gent, but to me it's kind of like a mutation of prog, heavier, more riffy. I
Well,
mean, there is a
somebody
lot of
actually said something to me the other day that one reason we were
Who?
talking about new metal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is an older guy, older guitar player, and he said the reason
Mm.
he never liked new metal was not because of the lack of solos or anything, is
Mm.
that he felt the guitar became more of a rhythmic instrument rather than a
Mm.
melodic one because there were less riffs, so to speak, like less melodic lines that you could sing along, and everything is more rhythmic.
Mm.
And I kind of think that was like a very early version of what djent is. Like when you play that low string on the ninth string, right?
Mm.
It's damn near impossible to get melody out of that. It's really just that.
Yeah, it's it's like a it's like a bassist come guitarist kind of vibe.
Mm.
But at the same time you sort of get the aggression of a guitar, like with heavy gains and stuff like that. So like to me, Tosin is kind of like that hybrid of bass and guitar player, but at the same time,
Well, he
the
does
stuff that
slap
he
on the
does,
guitar. Yeah.
yeah, he slaps, he taps, he does a lot of rhythmic stuff alongside some very melodic stuff. But it's very mathematical
Math
music
rock, they
to
call
me.
it as well, I believe. People like Yvette Young.
Yeah, it's very precise. So to a certain extent, there are people who really like that
Mhm.
rigid, robotic type of feel, which is not
Well,
wrong. But
here's the
I
thing.
I mean,
When I first discovered these people, your
mm,
Tosinabasi, Misha Mansour, Jake Bowen, Yvette Young,
yeah,
all these newer generation of players. It's funny for me to say
mm,
it that way because we're probably about the same age with most of them. But
mm,
I think of them as the newer generation of guitar players. It's very eye-catching. Like within seconds, when you first see what they're doing, you're like,
yep,
my God, like the technique that they possess,
yep,
it's phenomenal, really precise, like you said. However, I did find myself getting finding it getting old very quickly.
mm,
It was a little bit of that. I don't want to be offensive, but it's kind of like a freak show, where like you
mm,
can't help but look, and it's very attention grabbing, and it's very Instagram in a way,
mm,
where it's a lot of flash, but
mm,
upon listening more, I don't find it's actually got much substance to it, the music.
mm. I think it's different for different bands and artists.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do enjoy some of the gent stuff. If they, I don't even know whether this band called Polyphia is under, or Polyphia or Intervals is under this category.
I think so.
But it does have that essence of it, and I do enjoy their music. Um, but yeah, like to some extent, there is this thing about that genre that is it.
I think
Uh,
well,
but yeah, like as a guitarist for Tosin, he's pretty much that whole rhythmic
okay, but did you not
thing.
have you seen that clip of him playing G3 together with Vine Satriani and all?
Yes, I did.
What were
In
your
fact,
thoughts
I
on that?
actually caught him live here in Singapore doing the what's that with Nuno
Generation X.
Zach. Yeah, Generation
Okay, and
X.
what did
They
you
came
feel about the jam? Tosin specifically, not the rest.
a bit off.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because it wasn't his thing. But yeah, improvisational wise, I mean that guy obviously can play,
And he
right?
knows his theory back to front, obviously.
Yeah, like that guy obviously can play, but when it comes to maybe the song of choice that they were playing, I felt that it wasn't his thing.
I'll make an observation, and I think I've talked to you about this before, right?
Mm.
We live in a time now where there's YouTube,
Yeah.
right? And with YouTube, I find the modern guitar player, you can learn technique incredibly
Mm.
easily and at a much faster pace than when we were growing up.
Yeah,
It's
for
easy. Like
sure.
if I want to know how to sweep, there's a billion videos probably on how to sweep, and it
Yep.
breaks it down. It's very easy to understand. Back
Yep.
in the day, we heard about sweeping,
Mm.
you'd have to find someone who knew, and they probably wouldn't even show it to you. They'd do it in front of you and like, just
Yeah.
remember bees used to do that to us?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
They just go bloop, bloop, and like, can you show me? No.
yeah.
And you were
Yeah.
left to work things out for yourself, right? So one difference between guitarists when we were growing up, I find it was very hard to learn technique or even discover how players were doing it.
Mm.
However, there was a lot more discovery and searching.
Yeah.
And I think there is a value that, a lot of the newer generation have not placed on it in that search.
Yes. So like I have this talk with my a lot of my students before. I said, we in a way, if you view it right now, this
Mm,
day and age, we are very lucky as students, because if you know what to search for,
mhm.
YouTube is like a place of vast resource of the topic and the subject that you're looking for, and you could really do a lot of study by just going through the videos and understand it really quickly.
But
And whether or not you put in the time to like really work it out, it's really up to you.
I think what we've ended up creating is like there are more players who are technically adept today,
Yeah.
but we have less unique players with their own voice than before.
Yes, because like back then, like you claim like even our heroes, people like Satriani, Vi,
Mm,
Andy Timmons, Zach Wild,
yeah.
you name it, all these people that we look up to, they when they first listen to the bands that or the players that they love, they had to go through their records, or for us cassette tapes, and then eventually CDs and whatever not, right?
They all
We
talk
had
about
to.
the late great Eddie Van Halen when they first heard Van Halen 1, right? And
Yeah,
nobody knew how the hell he was doing it.
yeah, yeah, and we had to like try to he- learn it by ear.
Mm.
And because you learn it by ear, there is certain things that you may
Errors
miss.
sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, but as you mature as a musician, you start to like realize, hey, I didn't play that note. Oh, there's this thing he's doing, this pull off, or it could be this slide, or could be this half step bend, or whatever not, as a guitarist, then as you learn, but from there you kind of create your own voice,
Yeah.
so to speak, right?
And I think this carries over in terms of tone. Like another big problem I have with modern players
Mm.
is that everyone almost exclusively uses some kind of modeling.
Mm.
A lot, right?
Mm.
And yes, I know in theory, with
Mm.
modeling, you have every sound on earth at your disposal.
Mm.
But I think in that lies the problem because I think, and Jason talks about this a lot, where he says it's really important to have limitations. And if you are fortunate enough not to have limitations, then you need to consciously place them on yourself
Yeah.
because you end up with so much choice. I find that it overwhelms you that you end up not searching in the way that, if I have one delay, one distortion pedal in my amp, and I want to find a good sound or a different
Mm.
sound, it's a
Mm.
lot more work and a lot more time, right?
Mm.
And as a result, by working with what you have or what you can afford or trying to mix and match it, every one of the older generation players had a much more signature tone, even before you talk about their writing and their playing.
Mm.
Whereas now there is a kind of gent sound, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
You know the sound I'm talking about. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and sure,
But yeah, but that's very um based on the guitarist itself. I think this whole modeling thing for a lot of musicians, I don't know about the others on YouTube, but like for me,
yeah.
it's a living, right?
Mm.
So it makes a lot of
Financial,
economical
yeah, it's
and
more
financial
economical, yeah.
sense to just go
Agreed.
with the modeling. and really saves a lot of time on stage. And you just plug it in, let the sound guy from front of house do his thing,
You
and we
know,
just
but bro, you're a very unique player in the sense that you spent majority of your learning foundation years in that older generation where everything was hard to find and hard to come by.
mm,
So you built this base of that discovery and ear training. And then by the time the technology came in, because you remember back in the day when the pod was released,
oh yeah,
and like
I
that was the
bought it.
bomb, right?
Yeah, that was the wow.
And now in hindsight, you go like, that's rubbish.
Yeah, compared to the current modeling and
Yeah.
technology. Yeah,
So
yeah.
for a long time, we really turned our nose up at digital because it couldn't come close to analog.
Yeah, there was this thing about the digital sound.
Yeah.
I
And
call
now
it
it's
the
indistinguishable of
yeah,
pretty much. I
yeah.
honestly I can't tell the difference.
There is a difference.
Yeah,
It's this high Z that I name it the high Z. It's just this
almost
highs
too
that
high
you hear.
fidelity.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. It annoys me.
See, I don't have a problem with this high fidelity thing. My problem is more, I don't know, it's esoteric, the word, like the
Mm,
fact that players have access to all the classic vintage tones. Like,
mm.
I hate that people have this. I can't remember who's the company who makes it, but with one guitar, you can have a Strat sound, a Les Paul sound.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I
You're
get it.
missing the point. You're missing the point.
Yeah.
Like, why do you need so many guitars? Like, every guitar that I have
Mm.
is incredibly different from each other. Oop.
True, true.
And
Yeah, yeah.
that then influences how I play.
Mm.
I don't want to mention names, but I tried a certain signature model from a certain um, Japanese brand the other day,
Mm.
and I was horrified at the build.
Mm.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
a very colorful and flowery looking signature model, if you guys know what
Mm.
I mean.
Mm.
And I felt it actually affected the way I played.
Yeah, but that's very preference, don't you think? Like
Okay,
certain people just love the way it feels.
okay,
It's
I
a very
sidetracked a
preference
bit.
thing.
But my point was you have different guitars because I feel they then influence how you play and what you write.
True.
Yep. And that's why I don't see the value in this, tech where you can swap guitar sounds out,
Mm.
and look, end of the day, will I get modeling? Of course I will.
Mm.
Um, because it's more economical and it's a great backup.
Mm.
But given the choice and given the finances, would I? No, fuck no. Because I do enjoy the search for the tone, and the
Yeah, yeah. I mean, given like, don't get me wrong. I have amps at home, right?
yeah.
Like we played through them. I love the response, an amp response,
Hang on,
and how it reacts with.
we just totally went off topic in this video
Yep.
and we turned into an
That's
entire new discussion. That is the danger when Simon and I talk about guitars. Next thing you
yep.
know, it's a 24-hour upload.
Yeah, it could happen.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. So like we'll talk about that more in another episode, but it is still kind of relevant to Tosin.
Mm.
So overall, in closing, I want to say I think Tosin is I'm glad to see that there is something as original as what he's come up with.
Mm.
I really do respect his technique. He's really the finesse that he has is very, very impressive.
Mm.
I do not personally like his music.
Mm.
Not because it's not impressive. It's very impressive. It's very polished. It
Mm.
is original, but I
Mm.
feel it has no soul.
Yeah. I mean that's down to personal preference. Yeah, but I totally get it. Like to me it's mathematical.
Yeah.
And I mean we all grew up through players like Slash or people like Timmons, which is a huge part of my influence as well.
Well, look, it's a big difference from I love Dream Theater.
Yeah,
And Dream Theater
so do
is
I.
very
Like,
precise, very mathematical, but tremendous amounts of feel and songwriting and phrasing and composition and
yeah,
timing.
I guess it's like the whole thing. But yeah, I mean they are that era of musician, right? Like
Mm.
it's about that particular soul or feel or
Yeah, is that it
whatever
was
it
something
is.
that you it's very hard to quantify, you know. It's not quite
Yep.
a I don't even know how you teach someone that, as a teacher.
You can't. You can only facilitate. Like, hey, this is how it sounds. Maybe you can try to get close to it, but
And
it's
sometimes some people ask me as well, like we did that evolution series where I talked a bit about my songwriting process. And
yeah.
as Aaron and I discussed it, I realized that a lot of things that seem normal to me are not normal.
To other people, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
because for me, like I don't think about it. It just
Mm.
comes to me like what I think it should be. And then
Mm.
and I show it to you, and then you break it down and you go, oh, so it was this mode. And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you kind of get a nerd to do a breakdown. That's what you get. But for
mm,
me, it was more like understanding it. Like I understand the colors that you chose.
mm-hmm,
It's just that to better communicate that to other musicians, it's like a language thing.
yeah,
Like I just felt that for me to understand that I could put something to like I want this color. So because right now I'm feeling that color.
mm,
So it's easier to relate. So yeah, I mean I get what you mean by that. But yeah, it's something what you're talking about is that whole I don't know, can you call it musicality or
I think so. I think so. Like it's
yeah, but you see again the musicality thing it's very subjective.
okay. Here's the thing. All right, the other
Mm.
day, okay, this is kind of contradict a bit what I was saying, but I saw an interview with this one of the chefs who has a three Michelin star restaurant,
Mm.
and he said that flavor, or in this case, music, I'll say melody,
Mm.
can be subjective,
Mm.
but technique cannot. Technique, he said, is either in his case, it was like it's either cooked or it's not cooked. In music, it's like it's either in time or it's not in time. And I know there are
Mm-hmm.
exceptions. There are exceptions,
Mm.
but basically that's how his philosophy.
Mm.
You know, um,
Mm.
and I don't know. I just find with this new generation, like I said, they're all phenomenal players. But I have yet to see anyone who's a standout player that I find really has a unique voice.
Mm.
I'm not saying there aren't any. I just haven't seen one. And it's not to
Mm.
put anyone down. I would like this. I'm glad that there's more people playing and that everyone's a better player than I am at a younger age.
Mm.
Not you. You're great because you still practice a lot.
No, 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 no. It's the same. Just
But I bring. I think what I bring to the table and what I like to see more of is people who think the other aspect of
music.
being a musician. Yeah, not just
Yep.
about the precision and the technique.
Yep. 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 Yeah, yeah, I get it.
Mm.
Um,
Like if I
it's a
was
very
teaching someone guitar from the start, it'd be a lot more of I'm gonna show you a couple of chords and then take this and go figure this out. Or like
mm,
write something before I even tell you what a scale is, just from your ear. And I'm curious to see like, is there any difference in people with no pride? Because we used to do that when we used to go to jams, like blues jams.
yeah,
And blues
yeah,
is great in that sense because you get to search for, push the boundary, what note's okay, what note's not okay.
yeah, 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 yeah. I think it should be all like even at whichever level or at this day and age when you're discovering music, it should always be. At least I feel it should be like that. Like doesn't mean that I learned this today, I'm an expert tomorrow. I still need to go and discover whether this works or not, and why it doesn't work,
Don't
and
you
what
think
makes
that
it work. You know?
that old way of okay, I know we've gone back to that old topic, but what the hell? It's not often we get to do these videos, so I might as well keep talking about it.
Yeah.
You know that old way of searching, right? And
Yeah.
when you had your pedal board and only X amount of pedals that you could fit on there, and you had to try to shape your tone and all that.
Mm.
Don't you think that process would eliminate certain people who did not have as much patience or passion, who nowadays are able to just log on and dial in, not even dial in, just click on the preset really and do a bit of tweaks and say they dialed in.
Mm. Yeah. In fact, you'll learn a lot more about your own instrument
Mm-hmm.
and why it sounds the way it sounds,
Mm-hmm.
and you will try to find a way to get a certain tone, or at least close to a certain tone that you are trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And that is, yeah, that kind of shapes your ear, that kind of shapes like how, like where to dial, what to dial.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like you said, I mean in the process of doing so, you're learning a lot more than just playing the guitar.
Shit, I've got something else to say, but now we're gonna go even more off topic. Okay, this will be my final thing, and then we'll wrap this episode up. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so recently, due to the COVID and the lockdown and all that, I haven't been able to meet
Uh-huh.
up with the guys. We can't rehearse. We have festival being cancelled, no gigs,
Mm-hmm.
no tours,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
no recording practically. So
Mm-hmm.
left to my own devices and been playing with myself. I've started to really get into orchestral composing
Uh-huh.
because you don't need friends to do that, right?
Yes.
And that opened up an even bigger
Can of
world of,
worms.
yeah, like it's insane. Like you talk about options, like that is infinity,
Uh.
what's possible. So
Mm.
recently anyway, Spitfire Labs are holding a competition
Mm.
to see what you can compose using a minimum 3 of their free sounds. But you can use other things, but you have to use at least 3 of their free sounds, right?
Mm.
And when I opened up the software, the first thing I was like, fuck, where do you start, right? It's only
Yeah.
a 1 minute thing. It's very little time. It's not enough time to build any sort of orchestral thing and all that. So instead of wasting time, and I think it's wasting time, like listening to all the sounds and coming up with ideas which will just confuse you,
Mm.
I decided straight off the bat, I'm like, they said minimum 3, I'm gonna make it maximum 3.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do with only 3? And not just only 3, like pick something as your jumping off point, and as much
Mm.
as you can, like spend time on the composition rather than the sounds.
Yeah. The
And
sounds is supposed to complement the composition.
I cheated a bit in the end, even though I did stick to the 3, but I tweaked the EQ a lot at different sections so that I could manipulate the sound.
That's, I mean,
But it got me doing other things, right? Like whereas if I just went in and layered over layer over layer,
yeah.
and then again I found that doing that doesn't showcase the individual samples, which are such beautiful samples that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in closing, the tip of the day is maybe try limiting yourself the next time you write or practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have a 9
It it,
string,
it, it
cut
gives
off
you
4 of
it,
them.
that's a little bit extreme, but yeah, the idea is to explore what you have within that parameter,
Mm-hmm.
and then once you have explored to what you feel as the maximum thing that you could do or achieve with whatever particular things that you have, then you sort of move on lah. Or else it's just gonna be, it's the same with learning music. Like there's gonna be tons and tons and tons of players that you look up to, because like this player can do this, and you go like go fascinated like, oh wow, he can pick so well. And then you have people like Mateus Sato that does all that double stop thing and incorporate all the blah 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 this and that. There's just so many, but at the end of the day, it's really about how well you can utilize that one thing first before you really start adding into the pot,
Mm-hmm.
like the flavor that you want.
You see now,
So
Simon, I don't know whether this is a Socratic diaretic episode or it should be evolution. It's turned into.
that's why I say before you press the record button.
Why don't you just set up a Twitch account? Maybe people will send us money.
Yeah, I mean, you could just record it and then probably like
OnlyFans.
and then like edit and cut some parts out. You don't have to fully edit it.
No, you know what? The rule is evolution needs to
It's
have
just
a better
gonna
quality because this one's a shitter quality. It goes on Socratic, and I'm just gonna dump the whole thing there. You guys can watch it to the end or not, and we will
Yep.
try in future episodes to be more on point and stick to the guitarists we were talking about.
Yeah. There's just too many. Too much.
Okay,
Too much.
so let me stop the recording now
Yep.
and
Peace out.
go message Simon at xbred on Instagram.
X-bread.
Yeah, for fucking guitar lessons and shit.
Cool.
See ya.
See ya.